Hi, everyone. Come on, Disco here on the Launch Network. We got a lot of cool stuff happening this year alone. We're trying to catch back up, and we got a brand new show. We filmed a few of the shows previously, but we got an awesome show, Made in America, with Mr. Christopher Guerrera. This is going to be a great show. We're going to cover the whole complete sequence from bringing your product to market, to manufacturing, prototyping, packaging. I mean, the whole deal. This guy has it all. The great part is it's here in the great old USA. Let's bring him on. Hey, Chris, what's happening, man?
Hey, Carmine, how you doing today?
Doing good, dude. I'm getting a lot of great feedback on this new show, man. People love the Made in America stuff.
I tell you, I love talking about it. Right, I've been doing it a long time. I've been designing and launching products in the from the corporate America world that everyone talks about being a great training ground. And you know my background. I've had an immense training ground. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Great stuff here. And I know that, if you're just catching this show, go ahead and subscribe. Go back to the previous shows. We're going to be covering a lot of good stuff here. Chris, where are you located? I know you just went through a big storm, right?
Yeah, we're in Greenville, South Carolina. This is our 5th tropical storm of the year. I think there's about 11 or 12 that have hit the coast on either side, the Gulf and the opposite. But it's our 5th one. I thought we were going to miss it. It looked like it was going a little bit north, but yeah, we got hit pretty hard with rain and winds this morning. So, but most of the time the weather's nice.
I know we're going to kind of get into your process and things, but when you're making things and stuff, do you check the weather and what's happening? Like when you're doing a product run and things like that, does a run go overnight? Does the weather come into factor sometimes?
Yeah, I would say it definitely does. When you're looking at, power outages, the last thing you want if you're in a molding product is to have your power go out, right? It could create damage on tooling, but it creates a whole sequence of nightmares. And if you got to ship, you need product prior to. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's all part of the planning process.
Yeah, it's just something I thought about. Very seldom, people think about that. How, hey, I got to make my product, but the weather or storms could play a big part into that. It's pretty crazy. Always something, right?
We got a plant up north, so think about the winters with snow and cold weather. That all plays a huge part. Even in shrinkage, when you talk about shrinkage of plastics, the humidity in the plant versus the dryness and the cold temperatures, that also affects some of the shrink rates in the molds and
wow.
And how it plans out.
Yeah, a lot of times, and we'll get into kind of the first few steps with the design stuff. A lot of times, we as product developers and things like that, and your customer brings us stuff, a lot of things come into factors that even we forget to inform the customers about things like plastics and temperatures and things like that. This is really such a deep science to make a product. Even if it looks like a simple product to make, there's a lot of science that goes into it, right?
Boy, absolutely. I tell you, I've got a product now that has moving parts, right? So you've got like springs and injectors, and it's critical. And I try to explain this, in a way that people can understand it. You don't have that really tolerance and spec'd out right in the mold. When you're molding it, you're going to assemble this, right? So you're going to have some tolerance levels that stack up against you. It's critical that you don't have flow lines that interfere with any of the moving parts, and that the tolerance stack ups are absolutely critical in that type of operation. And all of that, I'll even find times where in a plant where it doesn't have AC in the summer, you've got this humidity that you have to deal with, which absolutely affects the type of assembly that you want, especially on products that are automated and that really truly are affected by climate. It is something to consider, 100%.
Yeah. So I mean, and not to beat on any engineers or things in that sense, but when you're working in the design aspect, and we'll kind of get into this beginning phases that we wanted to go over, the design, finding somebody that really has done this to me is critical, right?
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many people that I run into that think of a product design, but if you're not thinking for the manufacturing ability of it, it could be a real problem. Because I look at it, being out of the automotive industry, the systems are so critical up front. Or when you do design FEMAs and manufacturing FEMAs, these are all really hardcore analytical studies that are done prior to releasing it to manufacturing, so that you can continue to repeat it in manufacturing. It's not something you're doing at home, a prototype, and then you can't repeat it in a manufacturing environment. In a real production environment is done up front, and design is really critical. And and we'll talk about Tidy Hook today, and some of the things we did with Tidy Hook that perhaps were overlooked in the early stages before it got to me. And then when we grabbed it and said, okay, we got to look at all of it, right? This is a product that's going to be used inside of a vehicle. It's going to clip onto a headrest. It's not going to be used easily. It's going to have some rough movement. There's some clips in the bottom that hold bags. Those have to be secure. So if your windows are open or you're in a convertible, the bags don't fly off, right? And then you got to make sure that in cold temperatures, when you clip it into the headrest, you don't break the clips. So a lot of finite element analysis work was done there to show where the weak points are, and even flow analysis in the mold to show that your hot spots inside the mold and where the fatigue would occur, even in molding and in the application. So all of that. And what we find, the more we do that and the more we know, the quicker to market, the easier it is to manufacturing, and then we're good. Put the tool in, and when you start running it, it goes as planned.
Wow. I mean, would you call that the design phase, and then the prototyping phase seems like it's also very important? Is there certain aspects that you make sure fall into place during your prototyping?
Yeah, I would say, we like to do 3D where we can on smaller parts. We do a lot of 3D, so you can get an idea of what you're looking at. It may not be production ready, it may not be the final design, it may not be smoothed out, but you get a general feel for what it's going to work. And then really, with your mold analysis, you can determine the weak spots, and some of the design analysis, you can determine over time if it will last, the distance what you want. I mean, I'll show you, like on a Tidy Hook, you've got some really, really key features in these little clips here.
Wow.
There's some stress areas you would think would be here. This is where it snaps into the headrest. But in this back side, this is critical, because when you open and close and snap it on, you have a tendency to fatigue that, and in cold temperature, it just makes it worse, right? Then we've got this incredible flexibility we call a living hinge. It'll fit on any vehicle, and then it'll reform itself and always stay in the spot. You've got these little clips in the bottom that are critical when you're assembling the bag, that it fits in snug and tight. It won't fly off if you're doing 60 miles an hour down the highway. So a lot of areas, and I'll tell you, when you look at this hinge, it may look the same to you just by looking at it. It's not. There's a lot of different thicknesses here, different radiuses. So as it goes down, we don't want this to bend backwards. We don't want it to bend too far. So we want it to, with the bag, hold 10 pounds and be secure inside of the vehicle so it won't move around.
Wow.
So a lot of thought process went into it. And then the final selection of it is material. We started out with a basic polypropylene, which is not very good for temperature, which will break. We put them in freezers. This will go now to minus 150 up to 250. You can't destroy this. And we just put Walmart through the test. We got this in Walmart, and that was one of the questions they asked. How durable is it? I said, well, I haven't been able to break it. We've had other people who have tried to damage this. So you go ahead. We'll put it on your lab. You break it, it won't get into Walmart. Well, we just got the notice the other day that went through all their testing. It's going into Walmart now. So we passed the test.
Yeah, isn't it nice though, that you did that and you felt confident enough to say that, and that's where preparation
absolutely.
You do come in, right?
Absolutely. This is one that I was near and dear to. So I actually flew to the plants. I did the testing with the group. I actually went into my car and other cars, and really, I put this thing, I tried to break it. I tried putting it in sideways, any way that would create a stress strong enough to snap these clips, and I couldn't break it. These, this design is just incredibly robust, and all of the clips now are perfect. The headrest one is always, you're concerned about how somebody puts it in, how you move it, how easy, what angle they put it in, doesn't matter. We've got this thing done and designed and evaluate it through this material chemistry that it just won't break.
I love the way that top where it goes into the headrest is designed. What a universal fit.
Yeah, I mean, it fits in just about any vehicle, and you'll see that this opening here expands. And there's a lot of design work that went into this. You know, when I partnered up with Vernon had done a lot of work at the colleges with it, and we basically got it and said, okay, let's keep this in the U.S. No need to bring this to China. We can be more competitive than China. There's really no labor involved. It's all machine cycle time, and we'll get the material composition correct, so it'll withstand time, and it will withstand all of the weather elements regarding temperature. So when we first did it, we noticed the material recommendations weren't quite what we wanted. So we were able to do it on site, develop the material, add some ethanol, do some different blends, and come up with this incredible material now that will not break and will hold the temperature. And the beauty of it is, in production, we made some of these changes before shipping, so we can really prove the production concept out in the final first piece articles where we do all our dimensions, have all our reports, and all of the physical testing on site. So in a day, we had all this. I even made some changes on the logo. You know, we have a Made in America logo. We have the tidy hook on site. The tooling, we have tooling in-house. So this would have taken weeks, if not months, to do in China. By the time, and then you hope it's right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You hope it's exactly what you want. We're able to do this on site, live, instantly. We're not waiting for an engineering group to get back to us with the manufacturing results. We are the engineering group. We are the one providing the results. And that's what we're able to do. And this was a prime example of up with a design that's, let's say, kid-proof.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, what's great, you know, it's just so great that you were able to be there and be instantly tested. So a mold real quick. And for our listeners, you know, we hear toolings and molds. So a mold, can you give us a quick rundown on how it works? And when that product comes out, is it ready to test?
Yeah, see, so we did, originally we did this mold. When we did all the proof of concept, we had a lot of prototypes. We did our testing, said, okay, we're ready for a production tool. We built a tool. We can do a Made in America tool in about 8 weeks. Some of the smaller items, 6 weeks. You know, you're getting, quote, 12, 16 weeks across yonder. We're able to do it pretty quick. Then when we got it out. This is a long piece. It's, you know, I think it's 20, 26, 28 inches. It's pretty long. So you're trying to flow in a ring gate. We're injection molding material in one side, and we wanted to see how it would fill. Okay, polypropylene is known to have a lot of material, not a great tool to fill when you're trying to move that much material. You either get, you get blowouts, you get sink marks because you're trying to, a lot of tonnage, trying to move a lot of plastic before it cools down under a great load. So we realized it just wasn't repeatable in production. So that day we decided we're going to add another ring gate to the bottom half. So now you've got 2 areas where it's being injected into the mold. And that took us to make that change half a day.
Wow.
Pull the tool out, add the ring gate, put it back in. Next day we're injection molding it, and it's running like beautiful. There are no sink marks. It's an easy tool to run now. The material blend was developed at the same time, and then all our testing was done. So within 2-day period, we had a production tool. We had some tweaks that had to be made to make this a fully robust product production design, and it's off. It's done. Now in 2 days, we are ready to ship to our consumers, and again, having that confidence, like you said, to Walmart in a buyer meeting, saying, "I know you can't break this." And of course, they want to prove you wrong, right? They want to break it. I'm saying, no, we've already tried that. We can't. I want you to try it. And of course, now we have it going into Walmart, so
wow.
we're in good shape.
What's amazing. What's so great about it is being on site like that. So you inject that out, you get it working, you inject it out, and then what do? You make 1, 5, 10, and then you start testing. We did. I think the first one I like to do at least 100. Okay.
This just shows you repeatability, consistent cycle times. And then we do what we call our first piece article, where we dimension and inspect, like really inspect 30 units. So we do all of the critical characteristics that are on the drawing. We check to make sure these thicknesses are correct and won't crack. We make sure that in the tool that all these dimensions are as designed. You know, this is a piece where it's pretty flexible, so you have some room between the dimensions in the headrest. And you know, we even went back later and added, just so there's no confusion, front on both sides to show how it's assembled in the unit. Because some people, I mean, not that it would make that much of a difference, because it truly is symmetrical. We also made it so it was symmetrical, which is a big feature in a vehicle. But we wanted to make sure that the way this was designed, it was to hang on the side of the seat. I'll show you on one of my packages.
I understand.
Right? To hang on the side of the seat and not in the way of any passenger in the back seat. So even if you put it on wrong,
I see.
Right, it would hang maybe slightly. It's because of the way the angle is, but it really wouldn't affect it. But we wanted to make sure that this was, it's foolproof is what we call it, right? So no matter how you do it, if you follow the directions, it's easy to assemble. I think we had 5-year-olds put it on without even asking questions. Snapping it on in place.
Great.
It's got a little bit of a pop depending on the size of the post, but again, a child can assemble it, and that was the goal. And then, you know, then you got auto bags. We got different colors. They basically, you know, these are custom bags, and a lot of work went onto these bags. You know, and they snap right in.
Wow.
And they won't come off. So we've got a white bag. We've got a black bag, depending on your interior of your car. It's bags are,
yeah, nice.
You know, they're pretty heavy duty. 6 gallon, 2.25 mil. There's nothing like this bag in the market either.
Wow.
It's a different category, and it's reusable. I've got one in my car. You know, I put like wrappers in it. I put coffee cups. You know, nothing that's crazy, and I just take it out. If I need to clean it, I can reuse the bag. If you can put liquid, we filled this up with liquid up to 60 pounds and left it out in the sun in about 95-degree temperature. So the temperature around the bag area was about 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and it didn't leak.
Wow.
So that's ultimately the goal. If you have a nice vehicle, we don't want anything coming out of this. So a lot of thought went into this. A lot of thought went into the whole design and assembly of the product in the vehicle.
Wow. So real quick, and I'm glad you brought that up. I do want to go back to your packaging because I thought it really looked good. But how important, if you are able to supply accessories like you did, which is an awesome idea. I would have thought of giving the bags away with it. How imperative would it be to be able to supply those accessories so the product is actually working better or as designed?
Yeah, absolutely. So we supply. So I'll give you some iteration on packaging. So when we first did it, we were under some time constraints. We didn't have a ton of pictures, right? So we had some pretty cool pictures we needed. We had one of the retailers that wanted it. So we came up with this package. I mean, it looks great. We wanted to get the story out in the back, directions, but to me, it's still too big, right? And we didn't really have the testing done to say we can ship it like this.
Oh, yeah.
And have it come back without it cracking. So we didn't want to take any risks. The last thing we want is a product to get out in the field and have consumer problems, right?
Yeah.
Then you got review issues, you got quality issues. You don't want that. So started out 2 bags, tidy hook. 2 new package. So some different photos. We did a commercial, took some of the texting down, right? Gave us what we wanted, made in USA. Now we got some interest in retail. Then we said, okay, let's really make this. I mean, the pictures are kind of dark, still shows it, but not as good. Then we said, okay, well, we got retail.
Wow.
Retail one, right? They want it. So here's our final package, right? Really clear on what the product is, where it sits, where the bag sits, what it does. Fast and easy, clips onto the headrest, right? 6-gallon bag. It's built for the driver's safety. Drivers, you know, driving down the road, he wants to throw something away, he doesn't have to go in the back. And that's what happened with Vernon. He was driving his truck, and he had something hanging off the back of the headrest that sits where the passenger would sit, and he went to reach around, he looked up, and he drove off the road.
Wow.
That's how the idea was born. He literally almost killed himself. So we wanted it to be really simple. You don't even have to look. Take what you're doing, you drop it in the back. I use it all the time on every vehicle I have. I love it. Then, you know, the back, right? Really clear what it is, what it does, where it's made.
Yeah.
Right?
What a
So
difference.
really all the patent information is on the box. This is now retail. And then we have a PDQ that's 6 on each side fit in. So we can do 12 per shelf, or you can hang them on pegs.
Wow.
So there's a whole development, right? A whole process that you go through to get it developed really where it's retail ready. It's that whole, you're 5 feet away, you get 5 seconds to determine what that is, enough to bring you over to say, wow, that's pretty cool. Never saw one of these, and there's nothing like this in the market.
Yeah. What I love about what you just showed us, that iteration, that different steps, to someone who would be looking at that, they kind of look the same, but until you say, this is it, now, when you were showing me, I started picking up on the differences, and what a difference to that last version.
Yeah, big time. And you get little bits and pieces from your consumer, so it's important to listen to your consumer. And you talk with different buyers, and you get the reaction. How fast are they seeing? This is not an easy product to sell, right? It's you're talking about changing the way people use trash in a vehicle. We even take it to another level, that you can have this on either side, passenger, driver side. So mothers going to Little League games or soccer games, tournaments, lacrosse tournaments, they can put food in here, right? Drinks on one side, their lunch on the other side. Then they can put all the wrappers in the bag afterwards, and they can pop the bag off and take it with them. So we wanted to show it many different uses, but every time we showed this to somebody, we wanted to see how fast they understood it. And I think my last meeting with Walmart, sitting down with a buyer, he looked at it, wasn't sure, and he said, yeah, and then I started really selling it and explaining it. And he said, the light bulb went on. But I got the feeling he didn't get the picture of it right away. So I thought, to me, that was the most critical. And he said the same thing. He said, if you change that picture, blow it up, make it big, show what your product is. You can write a couple tabs on the bottom and then show the different variations, as opposed to, under time stress, we were doing commercials.
Yeah.
Look at the difference.
Yeah, huge.
Packaging is cheaper. It's half the price. Your overall bulk packaging is cheaper. It's cheaper to ship. And this just stands out more. It pops now.
Wow.
I can show you quickly.
So crazy. Oh, so many different pieces. It's amazing.
PDQs.
Oh, look at that.
Right, where they all fit in. You got views everywhere. So every time you look at it, you see something from it. So now you really can see it, right? From 5 feet, 5 seconds away, it pops out.
What a difference. What a difference.
And that's part of the whole development. It's no different than saying you're going to make a part, and the first mold, the first pop, it's going to be perfect. It's not. I mean, you try to get it 99.
Looks like we might have lost you a little bit there, Chris. Hey, Chris, how do you come up with that design? Does the retailers ask you kind of about if there's a way to make a multi-pack system?
Yeah, you know what happens there when you meet the buyers, they want to sell as much as they can in the little space as possible, right? So in this case, we took this, this packaging that was pretty large, a lot of detail, down to something that's really visible. Now you've got this beautiful PDQ where you can quickly put it on the shelf. You can put it in the main aisle. You have a piece that fits on the bottom, and there you go. It truly stands out now. You've got that whole 5 feet, 5 second rule in full effect. And it just makes it easy for the consumer now. And you have bright red, catches your eye, made in America all over it. And we say this is a problem that's been around for 100 years that we finally solved. We've got it on the side of the seat, the only product in the market that holds any type of storage on the side of the seat, not in the back of the seat, not on the console from a radio or blocking. Everybody can sit in their car. It's on the side of the seat.
Yeah, yeah. What I love about all of the things you're talking about is that kind of a no-brainer. You take that product, you're adding so much value, not only because you're making it super local, very quickly being able to make adjustments, all the process controls, but you're able to do testing too. I mean, you take that box, what do you just drop it in the carton, and the person that's stocking the shelves can just take that out, right?
Yeah, it goes into a master pack, and we can put 2 into a master pack. Then that goes on to, it's really nicely tight. And then that goes on to a pallet. That's all nice and tight. There's 48 units, so you can ship big bulk, and you just drop it into a Walmart LTL.
Wow.
It goes into the store. They open it up, and that's what they want. They want the end user, meaning the buyers have a responsibility to the stores. So they want the person in the warehouse not to have to spend all this time. They want to be able to cut it open and want to take it out and put it on the shelf and be done with it. And that's what this does.
Yeah.
You got all your barcode information, you got all your patent information, where are all the social media, and it pops now. It is finally a solution to a 1-year-old problem.
Isn't it nice though? I mean, I love that finished product, knowing you're always going to be making it better. But I love being able to look at that box and go through those and having that product. It's just such a fulfilling type thing. Is this what, when they talk about the types of things with your background, with all those steps that you've done, but you've eliminated many steps to save money and time and is this kind of when they talk about waste elimination in a good way, is this kind of the things that you talk about?
Absolutely. I look at, in lean, it's called MUDA, which stands basically for waste in process flow. I look at every possible scenario. I'll give you a funny story. When I launched this, I had who's 22-year-old, my 21-year-old, right at the time, he's 22 now, Tyler, my son working with me. And he was doing the boxes. So as we were molding, basically it comes out of the mold. As it's being molding, all the value add, where you would normally add labor to do things, I've eliminated that, right? So you're taking it from the press, and you're putting it in the box. It gets folded now, right? When I was telling you, it gets folded in the box. There's 2 bags that get put in. It gets wrapped, and then it goes into the PDQ into a finished package. Tyler was walking across the floor to get the boxes, and I said to him, "What are you doing?" He said, "What do you mean? What am I doing? I'm going to get the boxes. I'm making the boxes to put them in." I go, "But why are you walking 30 feet to get the boxes? Why aren't they right at the press?" He goes, "What does it matter?" I said, "Okay, I'm going to show you what it matters. Just as an example, as simple form as possible." I timed him. He said, "Okay, it took me 3.5 minutes." Right. How many times a day are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Well, start adding the cost. So every time you do that, I'm just going to deduct what I pay you today. Like, what do you mean? I'm working. I said, "No, you're not working. You're wasting time. Customer is not paying for that." So the goal is to have this thing molded, packaged, and shipped, all in process where there is no waste. Because really, waste in manufacturing is cost. And in labor, you never get it back. You can overshoot, you can build some inventory as long as it's good, and at some point sell it off. But when you're using labor and you're using process as part of that labor, and you spend more than you should on labor, that's a waste factor you will never recover. Gone. You lost that right off the profit, right off the bottom line. Well, my job is to make sure none of that happens. And working at companies like Ford and BMW, where you get charged $1,100 a minute if you shut a line down. I've got that instilled now that our motions are what I look at, not just walking, but really it needs to all be in process and control where you've eliminated that entire waste to give you the best cost and the fastest route from the press to the consumer.
Yeah. Well, that brings me right into it. And your eye and your brain works that way, because if I, as a retailer, put in a huge order to you, you have to be able to fulfill that order. So give me a little bit of the scenario from, the reasoning for that waste, obviously cost and scenario, but then you got to fulfill these orders and how do you make sure you can do it?
I look at it this way. In many cases, we have capacity studies done right on each tool. So you know how many units you can run per day, you know how many hours you have per shift, and how many days. Typically, in our case, we can run 20 hours a day, 6 days a week. So you can really maximize. So now the key is to maximize efficiencies so you can produce as many units as you're capable of molding without having secondary operation. So I can actually run to order.
Wow.
I can get an order on Monday and put a tool in and have it shipped by Friday and have it completely run. So I'm not building inventory. I'm not carrying extra costs. I'm not wasting space in the warehouse. I'm building now going to be shipped and invoiced by the end of the week. So I don't have to worry about spending $100,000 on inventory because I'm shipping it. And that is such a big deal when you talk about building to order. You know, how many times have I heard people build product and miss something in their quality process? And now they've got thousands of units that they either have to rework, again, which is wasted, or they can't use the product, which is scrap. Not, you know, that affects the bottom line. And that's what everyone needs to be conscious of. When you launch, yep, there's a cost with startup, but once you're in production, it's all about efficiencies. And that's, I mean, you know, I think my kids now, my older boy, Chris, he's 27, he's in purchasing, he's a purchasing manager now. He gets it, he truly gets it. He worked with me for 2 years. I was able to show him results in you know, before and after. He actually was part of the results. Now he truly sees it, and he gets it. He lives his life that way, and he works that way in the company he works at. So it is a big deal, and it'll affect your personal bank account as well if you're not doing it right.
Yeah. Well, exactly right. But while you're talking about this, you know, from injection to assembly to all those things, and my mind is going crazy because you can eliminate so many costs that you could be very, very cost structured and eliminating those things. I mean, I could see why, you know, like you say, U.S. made. I mean, you can do it.
There's no doubt. I'm doing it. Like I say, I have busted that mindset, that model of saying you can't do it in the U.S. There's nobody's going to tell me that. I know for a fact, and this was another good example, because originally when I met Vernon, he was going to China with it. We're doing it faster, we did it better, and we did it less expensive. Our cost is lower on this than it ever would have been, and we didn't have to fork out all that capital to hold inventory to have it shipped over here in 60 days. We're doing it live. And we did all of our changes in our development live, where it's being produced. So nobody's going to convince me to do it in the U.S. Yeah, definitely you got some labor issues you have to be conscious of. It's not every product fits that model, but if you're doing injection molding, I know for a fact it can be done because I'm doing it every day.
Yeah, that's.
You know, I talk about waste, right? I worked at a plant up in Syracuse, New York, called United Systems. Interesting enough, when I first went there, we had doing time studies and looking at how much floor space they were using, why they had so much floor space. And then I would start just watching people work. And I started to record it because really data is data. You can't, somebody can argue with me about the process until we fix it, but the data tells the story. One gentleman was walking 2.5 miles a day so that he would finish an operation, walk across the building to do another operation, walk to another part of the building the way it was set up. The process was broke. And he'd always tell me he was tired. I said, well, you ever think you walk 2.5 miles a day? and the problem with that is as he walks 2.5 miles a day, he stops and talks to everybody. So not only is he inefficient, he's making everyone else inefficient. And when you show the numbers, they are what they are. So we went through this whole value stream and the Kanban, some Kanbans in for the product flow, and really did a true value stream of the entire process. And then we make, you know, we go to the Gemba and we make a change in the work area. And then we take all these processes and put them together. So now nobody's walking. His throughput went up, you know, 300%.
Yeah.
And he was walking 0.1. He was walking from finishing the product to loading a truck to shipping it out the door. Wow. Complete mindset. And the people who truly want that and understand that, they start eating it up. They want to do it, and they feel like it's just now it becomes a challenge. My department is more efficient than your department, and it becomes a competition. It becomes a fun competition, and the bottom line number changes, right? The results change, and at some point bonuses change, and pay increases get better. So it affects every step you take. Truly does affect the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, I love that you said that because data doesn't lie. Numbers don't lie. Can't make it up. I could say, hey, it doesn't matter if I walk 2 miles, but when you start showing those numbers over time,
oh yeah,
it's not arguable. Plus, if you want to be better, why would you argue about the numbers?
yeah, and we'll get technical and we'll start doing videos. So we'll just set up a video in that work area and just watch these folks work, and then afterwards, we're not telling anybody what to do.
No.
What I like to do is always say, hey, let's look at what your current state is, what you're currently doing, what's the current state, and here's what the future state should look like, and we'll map it all out. So we'll say, here's what you're currently doing, here's the steps you're taking, and we'll track all of it. And most of the time, the people that are doing it can't believe how inefficient they are, because that's just the way they've been doing it, the way they understood to do it. So I always say it's never the individual, it's always the system they're working in.
Yeah.
Then we say, okay, what if we move this and we move this, we put these together, we eliminate that process, then we do the current state, and here's all the numbers for the current state, here's what the future state looks like, and we'll start working to the future state, maybe a little bit slower in the beginning till you get used to it, and then we'll start really recording data, and we'll show before and after.
Wow.
And both in pictures and data, people are absolutely blown away.
Yeah.
Even in companies like BMW, where when I first went there, their tool changes and the interior over 2 hours of tool change. I mean, just shutting a press down, it's not running. You spent $1 million on a piece of equipment, it's not running, doing nothing.
Wow.
Sitting while someone's trying to set up another tool. As opposed to, we got it on average for 7 machines, 18 minutes, but our best time was just under 11 minutes. That means the last good piece to the first good piece, 11 minutes. It means less inventory. I mean, you got just a really smooth running operation, and your inventory now is lower, your cost is lower, your throughput's higher. Everybody's happier.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Over time.
To the shareholders.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, Chris, man, awesome show as usual. I love this stuff. I love getting this information out because, it is something that people hear about, they talk about, but they don't really know how it works, so they shy away from it. But being able to put this information out there, letting people know it is achievable, I think is just awesome that we're doing this.
Yeah, it's great. And you see, I love talking about it. I've been doing it a long time. I lived it. And I always find it challenging. But now, knowing what I know over the years, I just have a different mindset going into it. And I can eliminate a lot of the cost, a lot of the money that people are wasting in areas that if they had come to me or somebody that can produce things in the U.S. at this type of rate, you can eliminate so much time and so much money.
Yeah. Well, that's what's great about it. Right? You're passionate about it because you know it works. And, you and I both, we don't like to see inventors and product developers and people suffering with things that they don't need to. So it's always great to put this information out there. So, yeah, all you listeners, please go on out and subscribe to the show. Chris and I will be doing this Made in America with Chris Guerrero. We'll be trying to do it weekly. We'll get this information out there. If you're jumping in now, just go back and subscribe and you'll get the rest of the shows. Please go on out to Google Play or iTunes, however you get your podcasting information or data or shows, and leave us a review, leave us a rating. Let us know how we're doing. We would love to hear from you. So for my friend, Mr. Christopher Guerrero, and myself, Carmen Disco, we thank you for listening in to Made in America with Chris Guerrero, and we will catch you next time. You all take care.